The unprecedented natural disasters recorded to date has become a serious issue for major metropolitans, where at the same time they also aim to achieve competitiveness in terms of the economy, quality of life, and environment. Natural disaster has become one of the serious issues taken into consideration when developing the infrastructure, and especially for a big city like this, like the New York City, constant power supply is needed in order for the growth, as well as technology that will step into play and offer solution that will guarantee mitigation to damage and losses. Bangkok weathered the devastating 2011 flooding that caused an estimated $45 billion in damage. The New York City was battered by Superstorm Sandy a year later, which crippled the New York Stock Exchange for a stretch of 2 days. With dense populations, cities are particularly vulnerable to natural hazards. Thus, the threats from extreme weather patterns cannot be taken lightly. A study by Germany's industrial bellwether Siemens AG showed that a resilient urban planning is becoming a new trend in city development, as it can reduce potentially huge damages and promise enhancing productivity.
So resilient infrastructure development is basically addressing the infrastructure in the case of an hazard, if something unexpected happens. And it's the question whether or not that infrastructure can take this kind of blow in terms of, let's say, being intact, even though you have an impact on that infrastructure on the one side. So that means it's whether or not it's still intact, whether you can, let's say, shut parts out and let the core system still run.
Although natural disasters cannot be prevented in the case of future development, Bush emphasized that infrastructure can be better protected through technology. Resilient infrastructure is not an option, but a must. The new paradigm has also shifted for a more interconnected collaboration, which calls for all related agencies of all levels to work together in the planning process, whether it be officials from the transportation, security, or energy sectors. While money has been deployed for a smart infrastructure solution in metropolitan expansion.
In Bangkok in particular, and I'm talking about every large city, it's really mandatory that you do that and start the planning early, because normally the traffic grows faster than you expect.
But architectural experts deemed the process of city planning for Thailand still faces the problem of isolated planning between the local and central administrative bodies. There is still a limit of what the local administration can do or cannot do.
This kind of risks is different from economic shocks or any other risks that we faced before. We have to understand this first, because this risk is a long term, take long time to see impacts, maybe 30 years. But the impact is very severe. It's severe, like you can displace like million people, like what happened in Bangladesh. Like 4 million people has displaced from coastal cities. So the impact is huge.
According to Professor Vijit Busabamarom from the Faculty of Architecture and Planning of Thammasat University, if Thailand does not start planning its approach holistically and take the agenda to a national level, the kingdom could never be ready to deal with external and extreme risk.
If we don't incorporate different sectors to the risk reduction strategies, I think we not be prepared yet. Like during this period of time is emergency already. Because imagine if you have to do some mega project, or if you have to come up with like new education paradigm to tell younger generation that they will grow in the next 30 years, that what is climate change, how you're gonna cope with risk. It takes time. And it has to be implemented now.
Juravi Gidesin reports.